Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for making it tonight. Uh, this is our soft opening of the El Sidr Environmental Film Festival, and it's our fourth edition, the fourth time doing this, and we're really proud that it's almost becoming a tradition, and that's not easy anywhere. Uh, I will not talk too long, but a big thank you to the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi for the sponsorship of this year's festival and for the last 4 years. Without them, it just couldn't happen. Many people there make this festival happen, and also a big thank you to our hosts, um, NYUAD, many people on the ground always supporting us. We have two exhibitions at this festival, one by the Natural History Museum and one by the artist Camilla Singh. We have an amazing week of films. I hope you saw some of them listed here, um, from classics from the UK, India, classics of anime, that's a mixed production between Belgium and Japan and France. Uh, Please check it out on whatever you like to check it out on, Instagram or the website, or let us know if you want to know more about the schedule or anything. The theme this year is all living beings, inspired very quickly reading something in the Quran that said all communities, all living beings, they used a word in Arabic, dabba, have their own sovereignty, their communities onto themselves. And humans too. So if we really take that further, we still have a lot to learn. That's all I want to say. And our event tonight is really amazing, marine biodiversity. And I have one of our student co-producers from Zayed University that's been helping with this festival, Latifa, who's going to be introducing the moderator of today's event. So thank you once again, and lots to do this whole weekend. So please look at all the timings, make your bookings. Even if you don't do a booking, you can come, and it's easy to do. And definitely take time for both exhibitions. One is not up yet. It'll be up tomorrow night, the Natural History Museum. Okay, Latifa. تفضلي. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nazar. Hello, everyone. Today I will be introducing Ms. Annabella Willing. Okay, Annabella Willing leads the Conservation Outreach and Citizens Science team at Emirates Nature WWF, engaging communities in environmental programs as a marine biologist. She is passionate about hawksbill turtles and spearheads and various head-on digital initiatives, including the Leaders of Change program, which empowers individuals to take climate action. She also co-develops the youth movement Connect with Nature, offering UAE youth leadership opportunities and unique experiences. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Latifa. It's actually the first time being on stage doing this, so it's never easy. I'd like the participants to come on stage now, if possible, and we'll show the quick teaser from the EAD this year, and then we'll begin. Yeah, just watch your steps.
Beautiful. Look at that. Good evening, everybody. What a lovely, intimate conversation we're going to be having. I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. These are good friends of mine. We've known each other for a really long time, so this is going to be just like a chat that we have at home, right? And we were already having some great conversation outside before we started. So I'm really, really looking forward to having us all in one room. It's going to be great. So I'll begin by just introducing you to these superstars that I have in front of me. This is a sort of a crack team of marine biologists here in Abu Dhabi. These are some of the biggest names in the industry. So it's great to have you on stage. We've got Nasreen Al-Zalawi, who's heading up the Abu Dhabi Mangrove Initiative. She's a specialist in, or an expert in biodiversity, marine biodiversity assessment, conservation at the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi. She's got a long, illustrious career in policies and implementing sort of biodiversity and sustainability initiatives and restoration programs. So she's big on mangroves if you're into mangroves. We've got Dr. Hind Al-Amari, who is sometimes known as the Turtle Lady, or Mother of Turtles, Queen of Turtles. She and I have been playing tag because I came to the UAE working on turtles. She went to the UK to go and do her PhD on turtles, and then we've been switching places for years. So thank you so much for joining us. Hind is a marine conservation scientist, as her job title at Environment Agency Abu Dhabi. And last but absolutely not least, we have Dr. Das, who is a marine endangered species and habitats expert at Environment Agency Abu Dhabi. Dr. Das has been here 23 years and started his career in 1996, winning the Young Scientist Award. And his PhD was on seagrass and continues to have lots of adventures with seagrass and dugongs and turtles and dolphins and all good things. So it's going to be a great chat, and I'm looking forward to it. I do want to make it as interactive as possible. So I'm going to start by just seeing what you want to hear about today, and we can tailor the conversation. So I've mentioned a few expertise from the team, but shout out, what would you like us to talk about and focus on? I can see Dr. Ada looking at me over there. Anything you want to hear about, Dr. Ada? Just coming for a nice quiet place to sleep. Anyone? Do you like dugongs? Do you know what a dugong is? Feels like a no. Okay, so we need to explain that. That's going to be on the agenda. Anything else? Anyone been to the mangroves? Yeah? Do you want to learn more about mangroves? What about turtles? Any turtle lovers in the house? Yay! Okay, fab. Well, we're on brand. Amazing. So I'd like to just start off by sort of setting the scene. We're going to be talking about the marine biodiversity of Abu Dhabi. And this is a really interesting place to be a marine biologist. You know, the sea that we've got out there is actually really unusual. You know, it's very shallow, so the average depth is only 35 meters. Because it's so shallow, like with a puddle, it gets quite hot when it's hot, and it gets quite cold when it's cold. Has anyone tried to go swimming in January? Yeah. Bit chilly? And what about in the summer? Too hot. Yeah. So the temperature varies a lot, which is quite unusual because water has a very high latent heat capacity, and normally the temperature doesn't change so much. Because it's shallow, what that means is that a lot of light hits the seabed. So we have a lot of plants that are able to grow from the seabed, especially our beloved seagrass. It's very salty. In some places, it's double the salinity of the Indian Ocean. So for marine biologists, we're sort of looking at the stuff here being like, wow, how are you alive? It's so cool. So it's a great place to be. And because it's so extreme in many ways, it means the stuff that we have here is quite different. It's quite specialist. So I'd love to hear from my crack team of marine biologists here. We'll start with you, Nasreen. What is it that Abu Dhabi's marine biodiversity's got to offer? What's here that's really worth our enthusiasm?
Thank you, Arabella. It's a pleasure to be here, everyone. Hi, good evening. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to come and learn about Abu Dhabi and the UAE's amazing marine biodiversity. So I think, Arabella, your introduction was fantastic. It's really the unique extreme conditions that we have here in Abu Dhabi and in the UAE and the Arabian Gulf that make the species and habitats that we have here so special because they are resilient to these extreme conditions. And one example is really the Avicennia marina, the species of mangroves that that we have here. We have one species in Abu Dhabi, and it's one of these species that really can survive not just in extreme temperatures, but also extreme salinity, because the Arabian Gulf is also very salty. And they often say that the Arabian Gulf is like an open laboratory for studying the impacts of climate change and future scenarios in different parts of the world, because our coral reefs, our seagrass beds, our mangroves are already surviving at these high temperatures that sometimes in the summer even exceed 36 degrees Celsius, which is unheard of in any other place in the world. So that's why we have researchers, but then also the environment at the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi, but here at NYU, that have been studying these important marine species and habitats to understand what makes them so resilient and so adaptable to the conditions that we have here.
Thank you so much. And I think as well the value of the ecosystems can be put even in economic terms. So I know Emirates Nature WWF and the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi have been collaborating on some sort of ecosystem services studies recently. And we did some research onto coastal lagoons. And we found that on average, sort of Corbeida, which is just kind of near Yas, I guess, that kind of area, and Corferido and Umm Quwain we were studying, and we found that those coastal lagoons, just the lagoon, on average generates 83 million dirhams per year in ecosystem services. So there's a huge amount of value in these coastal areas. Hind, please do tell me, there's so much left to save. You know, I think a lot of the chatter around marine biodiversity can be, and conservation can be around sort of sad messaging about how much we've lost and so on, but there's still a lot left, and there's still a lot of wonderful things that we should be celebrating. So tell me about on what you've experienced recently about all of the amazing stuff we still have left to save.
Yes, thank you, and good evening, everyone. Well, we mostly work with species that are considered either endangered or critically endangered. And yes, of course, I'll start with sea turtles being one of them. We have dolphins in our waters, dugongs, and as Nasreen just mentioned, our mangroves, seagrass beds, corals, and they all constitute to our ecosystem. They are all valuable, but it's not just these charismatic species that we take care of. It's also invertebrates. We look into so when we take care of one species, there's always one that also depends on them. So it's all interconnected, it's all together. I mean, growing up, I never saw myself in this field, to be honest. Or it wasn't I'm not going to say it's an option, but it's not something that I thought I would study. But because I was exposed to the natural world from a young age through camping and just seeing what we have, it gave me that sense of curiosity to really understand why we have what we have. We always hear that we are in a desert ecosystem, but even though that's true to an extent, but there is a lot of life here that requires research, monitoring, and conservation.
Thank you so much. Dr. Das, you've been here 23 years. You must enjoy it. There must be some good stuff out there that's keeping you here. You know, Hind mentioned something there about this whole ecosystem approach and how we can't just focus on the cute things. Sometimes we have to protect the ugly, squelchy things as well to have this whole ecosystem. We've briefly mentioned seagrass. I'm not sure if the people in the audience understand how cool seagrass is, by the way. It doesn't sound the most exciting thing, but it is amazing. And per square meter, seagrass can sequester up to 35 times more carbon than a square meter of the Amazon rainforest. So it's really, really a heavy hitter. It's also home to a lot of amazing things. So tell us about the wonders of seagrass and the wonders of the wildlife that you've seen over the years here.
You know, CMS, thank you very much for your interest. Few years back, CMS brought up one caption saying, "Yummy seagrass and happy dugongs," and that means as long as seagrasses are healthy, seagrasses are abundant, then you will have dugong and green sea turtles living in our water. The thing is that here, Nasrin mentioned about habitats and Dr. Hind about species and all these things. A species is those flagship species very attractive, and people get attracted. Public interest is always with flagship species. Not much interest though for invertebrate, marine invertebrate species or something. But these species like cetaceans, marine mammals, reptiles, but all of them, they depend on their healthy habitats. So seagrass, we have got more than 3,000 square kilometer of seagrasses in Abu Dhabi waters itself. In addition to its rate of like climate impact and how to mitigate that, they are highly resilient to this change in temperature. Summer temperature goes up to 36, 37 degrees centigrade bottom temperature, and then winter it drops to 14 to 15 degrees centigrade. In spite of that, we have got these three species of seagrasses growing very well. They have got biodiversity values, they have got coastal restoration and coastal support system, then they purify water quality, and as you know, Arabella mentioned that how stressful our marine water quality is. So all those things, seagrass, values and their services are really, as you mentioned, that so many, your Khor Farida, what survey we did, it was based on nature-based solution study and format. And seagrasses not only support biodiversity, it is also supporting ecotourism, it is supporting job creation, fisheries, and it has got all these values that is helping human and coastal communities to grow.
Thank you so much. I'm inspired to share a few fun facts about seagrass and dugongs because I love a fun fact. So seagrass, you might be wondering, does anyone know the difference between seagrass and seaweed? No? Well, there we go. Let's start with the basics.
That's actually a big problem, and I think it is seagrass. In fact, is a misnomer. They do not grow in sea because I would say that in wetland international definition, up to 6 meter during low tide, 6 to 8 meters, they are coastal waters sometimes, and then so that is not real sea, deep sea. That is one. And they are not grass. Grass is always, if you are botany, you have in your biology, that is Gramini and Poaceae or something they say. These are Hydrocaritaceae and Potamogetonacea. So they are not grass family. So they are not real grass. They do not grow in deep sea. So they are.
There we go. Seagrass.
But they are
near the sea,
flowering
grass.
plants, angiosperms, flowering plants, and they are perennial. It's not that 1 year they flower and fruit and disappear. In contrast, marine algae, seaweeds are algae. They do not have vascular tissues, xylem, phloem. I will not get into more into biology, but transportation system is not there. So they are thallus, they reproduce, they get attached to rocky and hard bottom surfaces and benthic this one. So seagrasses are flowering plant angiosperms.
Yeah, so sort of just to summarize, a seaweed doesn't have roots. It just attaches to a rock with like a sort of sucker thing. And it's always throughout its evolutionary history lived in the sea. Whereas seagrass is a flowering plant that has evolved from things that were out of the sea and has now evolved to go back into the sea. So it's a bit like a marine mammal in that respect. It's had this evolutionary path where it's gone from its ancestors on land back into the sea. And because it's got this history and this sort of root system, essentially, that's the secret to its success in terms of the carbon capture, because a lot of carbohydrate and carbon's like stuck in the sediment. And to go to dugongs as well, because there was a few blank faces when we were talking about dugongs, and I saw a few swimming around on the screen behind me. So do we want to explain what a dugong is as well, a sea cow?
Before going to dugong or sea cow, I would add what you mentioned in the beginning, that how unique or stressful our ecosystem is. For example, mangroves. Mangroves you see in areas where we have Indonesia, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Southeast Asia. Water salinity will be around 15 to 25 parts per thousand ppt. Here we have 45 ppt. Mangroves' unique growth is seen in river deltas. We do not have river. The soil they prefer is alluvial soil. That means 60 to 80% of that soil should contain organic matter. We don't have that type of soil. In spite of that, mangroves growing. Salt marshes, same way. Sea grasses, again, you will find organic matters and sediment, different sediment in other parts. So with all odds, these species are growing and supporting mega species, marine mammals and reptiles, such as turtles and dugongs. Dugong, sea cow, the largest population you will see in Australia, more than 85,000 dugongs. And second largest is like UAE, we have 3,000. So 85,000 to 3,000 population is not evenly distributed that way. But with limited seagrass cover, these dugongs along with green sea turtles are surviving here. And our genetic study shows that they are very close to East African dugongs, and how their evolution started and all these things, further studies would tell us. But these are shy and secretive marine mammals, herbivorous, they feed only on grasses, and then they are very slow breeding. One calf, normally one calf, we have seen few twins in last few years. So normally one calf in 3 to 5 years. We presume in Arabian Gulf region it is 5 to 7 years. So we have some necropsy studies or postmortem studies of female dugongs there. We have found out in a whole lifespan they produce 5 to 7 offsprings. So it's slow breeding and large marine mammal, and it's a species that is means struggling to survive. In spite of that, with all our conservation efforts or the leadership, projects and international collaboration and all this, with all the conservation action that is going on, for last 15 to 20 years, the population has been stable.
That's amazing, and that's, thanks to you. You've done that hard work to stabilize that population, so many congratulations.
Not exactly. I think later, I will not say now who is responsible for conservation, that I will tell you later.
Okay, thank you. Amazing. So a few little dugong facts in there from me as well. So a dugong can eat, I think, up to 40 kilograms of seagrass a day. Is that right?
Yes, some around 25 to 40.
Yeah, they're hungry seagrass cows, sea cows going around. Their tail looks like a dolphin. They have a dolphin-shaped tail, which differentiates them from other sea cows known as manatees, which live in the Americas, which have more of a paddle-shaped tail. But they're not really at all closely related to dolphins. In fact, they're more closely related to elephants than dolphins. So here they are. Look at them, beautiful things. They're mammals, marine mammals, so they breathe air. And you mentioned post-mortems there. I think we've had a few fun days in the field covered in quite unpleasant smelling dead things. And because they're breathing air, they're quite susceptible to entanglement. And that's often the reason that we've seen them passed away on the beaches, strandings. We were just discussing before the session how unfortunately, we see many more dead ones in our kind of work than the live ones sometimes if we're not doing a helicopter survey or something. But you mentioned a few other habitats in there about sort of salt marshes, and I know, Nesreen, you've got a really exciting premiere for us that mentions salt marshes. Do you want to just introduce the video that we should be playing soon?
Yeah, sure. So this is a very short documentary about the mangroves and salt marshes of Abu Dhabi. And the reason that we've been doing these documentaries is really to bring the beauty of these habitats and raise awareness about their values, because we realize that sometimes it's very difficult to visit these areas or to really appreciate how important they are. So in this video, we have a series of videos that EAD is working on marine and coastal habitats, covering coral reefs, seagrass. And this video would be the premiere, I guess, of the short documentary about mangroves and salt marshes in Abu Dhabi. So we hope you enjoy it.
بالنسبة لي البحر يعتبر بوابة رئيسية لنا للعالم. فكان لابد أن نقترب منها بشكل أكبر. لذلك دائما أقول كل شخص مهم جدا أنه يوصل رسالته البيئية له لأبنائه ولأصدقائه، وكذلك يقترب أكثر للطبيعة. لما تقترب أكثر للطبيعة بتحبها أكثر، فبتحافظ عليها وبتحميها.
Between the land and sea, so where the tide comes in and comes out, is a very unique and special area. Mangrove ecosystems are considered one of the most critical vegetative coastal habitats in the Emirates. They're important because of their high value culturally and for biodiversity. It looks like it's just a tree, but it has a lot of potential to support a lot of things.
هذه البيئات تعتبر هامة وفريدة من نوعها، لها دور كبير في المحافظة على التنوع البيولوجي وتوفير بيئة وموئل مناسب للعديد من أنواع الطيور. لها دور كبير في تثبيت التربة وتخزين الكربون الأزرق.
So mangroves are super important blue carbon ecosystems. So what I mean by that is that they fight climate change by capturing a lot of the carbon dioxide and storing it within the soils.
تكمن أهمية أشجار القرم عندنا أن لها قابلية عالية على التكيف مع الظروف المناخية. لما تزرعها ما تحتاج إلى أن تسقيها بمياه أو أنك تضع السماد لها. الله سبحانه وتعالى أعطاها قدرات أنها قابلة على تحمل هذه الظروف المناخية والملوحة العالية بشكل فريد من نوعه، وتنمو إلى معدلات حتى تصل إلى غابات.
For us to enhance the health of the trees and to extend it means that we are contributing to a higher population of biodiversity. So that connectivity between mangroves, mudflats, salt marshes, and seagrass beds offer a route for all these species.
Salt marshes are not as magnificent as mangroves to look at, but they are the vegetation along the shoreline. Salt marshes are salt-tolerant plants, and they occur along the coastal habitats of any sea or in coastal lagoons. These are plants which grow in intertidal as well as upland areas. Their ecosystem values are as important as mangroves, but not much study has gone into salt marsh ecology. Their rate of carbon sequestration is as much as mangroves. Soil protection along the shoreline is very critical, and salt marsh provide those ecosystem values. These salt marshes actually support growth and recruitment of invertebrates, and these invertebrates, including crabs and gastropods, are food for shoreline birds.
if we protect it, then they will provide the same ecosystem value as mangrove does.
تعتبر هذه البيئات كنز لنا وكنز طبيعي مهم جدا ان نحافظ عليه، ورثناه من ابائنا واجدادنا، مهم نكمل هذه المسيره.
Congratulations, what a beautiful footage. Well done, I love it. Amazing, stunning footage. Fantastic.
Can you believe all of this is shot in Abu Dhabi? So
I can.
for those of us living in this beautiful big city, there really is this amazing nature, an amazing ecosystem out there ready for us to explore, to discover, to teach our children about it, and to learn about and appreciate.
Thank you so much. So I wanted to talk a little bit about life as a marine biologist, because I think it's a sort of career that lots of people think about when they're young. I know, Hind, you said you didn't have any idea you wanted to be a marine biologist, but you know, look at you now. But you know, I know, was this the film that we were out shooting together? Is it the same one?
As part of the same series, so we
Okay.
were out trying to find a seagrass site for the seagrass documentary that will be hopefully the second documentary launched after this one.
Amazing. So that was a fantastic day at work for me, just sort of chumming along, to be honest, coming along as a scout for seagrass beds. But I'd love to hear from you guys some of your favorite memories and some of your favorite experiences from, you know, your job. Do you want to start, Naz?
Sure. So I've been with the Environment Agency for 10 years, and really kind of my favorite or happiest moments at work is really when I'm in the water with the team. It's really when you have that time, when time slows down, and when you get the chance to really see this wildlife and these amazing habitats up close. And every time we go back to a site, be it a coral reef or a mangrove site or a seagrass, we discover and we learn something new. And it just kind of motivates you as you go back into the office and back to our reports and our administrative work, et cetera, to really go the extra mile to raise awareness, educate, communicate. So even us as scientists, we really have to make that extra effort to communicate the value and the importance of these areas to different sectors of society. I was recently at a meeting where there was a speaker, Professor Judy Manlang from South Africa, where she said, to save the ocean or to care about the ocean, you need to care about people. Really, it's the people that are at the heart of everything related to the protection of coastal and marine ecosystems. We have to understand what are the sources of the pressures, in what ways can we influence, can we make change to ensure that any activities that would impact these species or these habitats in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE, or around the world, that are addressed. And this is where, you know, it's more than just studying the ecology or, you know, studying these ecosystems from a marine science point of view, but also we need social scientists, we need economists to really, you know, study and examine these ecosystems and their value to society, their cultural value, their aesthetic value, as well as their economic values.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if we have any students here tonight, what your majors are, but literally every job out there is an environmental job. And, you know, the film festival is a great example of that, where you can have, you know, art students who are making impact in an environmental space. So thank you for that, very inspiring. Yeah, we need the economists. Doesn't matter what you're studying, we'll find a way for you to be able to take care of the environment. Dr. Hind, I'd love to hear about some sort of cool interaction, maybe when you're out in the field. What's one of your favorite memories of just an amazing experience of biodiversity in Abu Dhabi?
Well, for me, it's two memories that I have. One was, it was a month after I joined EAD back in 2014, and it was just in the middle of the turtle nesting season. And it was my first time out in the field. I had Dr. Das with me as well. And we went to an island where we know that turtles come to nest, but we're never sure if a turtle's going to come that night or not. And to my luck, it did. So that was my first encounter ever with a sea turtle that's actually nesting. So, and just witnessing the effort it takes a turtle to actually lay her eggs and then go back to sea, which takes approximately 2 hours of her time, And before she actually lays her eggs, she makes sure that the area that she is going to lay her eggs in is safe for her babies. It was just, it's a memory I'll never forget. The second one was also related to turtles, of course, and it was when we first, or at least it was my first time seeing the hatchlings come out of their eggs, and it was very early morning. It was sometime in June, and it was very humid, and I was still sleepy, and just walking on the beach and seeing those little heads poke out the sand. It was just, again, that's the second memory that I'll never forget. And it's because of those memories, and it's because of us really experiencing or seeing and researching these things in the field, in their habitat, is what, as Nasreen mentioned, drives us back when we go back to the office to report it, to analyze the data, to communicate it with everyone. And I really also believe in the power of the community and how they can support in conservation. And again, as you both mentioned, no matter what major a person is, no matter what they decide to do in life, environmental conservation is everyone's duty, no matter what they do. So just being exposed to it or having the right knowledge makes you an advocate for the environment and helps conservationists in the end.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's little in life as cute as a baby turtle waddling down the beach towards the sea, right? And yeah, thank you for that inspiring message. I love it. Do you remember that meme that was like what people think being a marine biologist is like and then what it's actually like? And it's definitely a lot more emails than I signed up for, but there we go. Dr. Das, I know you've had some adventures over the years. You know, you've looked at, you've counted dugongs from hanging out the door of helicopters, all sorts of exciting things. Can you tell us some tales of adventure from your time?
Oh no, I'm old now. Started our dugong survey with dead dugongs because difficulty in sighting live dugongs. To see a live dugong, you'll have to go get into water. To get into water, you need a boat, and we had just one boat in EAD in 2001. And that boat will be used by fisheries team, by management, by everyone. And there was no protected area, nothing. So you get once in a month, one day, that boat to get into sea. So very difficult. It is better to drive along the shoreline, see some dead dugongs. That is how our dugong survey, though I was working prior to that in Andamans, I had seen a few, but dugong population density was not that high there. And Abu Dhabi water is one of the best. Then when we started aerial survey, that is the best memory that I have. But before that, I would say what Dr. Hind mentioned, that environment and wildlife study or knowledge or, that is everyone's duty. But if you want to work in this field, unless you have passion, unless you have interest, don't come here. You will not be happy. You will be happy only when you have passion. There is no time. What she is telling that total hatchlings going out, that is 3 in the morning. She is there. Her duty starts at 7:30 and ends at 3:30 as per Government of Abu Dhabi policy, but she is there. And she will be working, Nasreen will be working during weekends and taking care of these mangroves and all these activities, this film and all these things every day in field. Means offshore, arranging boats, rough sea, and all these things. So that dedication has to be there, that passion has to be there. Otherwise, don't do that. Good, try the thing that you feel happy doing, whether it is finance, banking, AI, and all these things. But try to use environmental part with your job also. That will make you happy. Now, coming back to aerial survey, what you mentioned, prior to our study in EAD, we had Anthony Preen. Tony Preen did it from Saudi. That time there was no restriction. He can come in helicopter from Saudi to Qatar and then to Abu Dhabi and stop wherever he wants and refuel and then do dugong survey. Now it's not possible from one emirate to another emirate also. You need permit and regular. There are several protocols developed after that. It was in 1980. When Tony Preen did that, um, uh, he finished it by 90, and then after that his report was really good, and that is the in fact basis of our survey. Dugongs will occur only in 2 places, shallow water where seagrasses are there, or in migratory route, which we didn't know. And dugong's main activity is foraging. They like to eat even 18 hours a day. So they will be found only in and around seagrass areas. So our first job was to map seagrass and then put the line, and we saw Anthony Preen has done exactly same, shallow areas up to 15 meters, seagrass areas, and over that he was using his helicopter. But what he was doing, he was, because that time security safety reason for something, they didn't remove doors of helicopter. So you'll have to kneel down with a, that time knee cap was not there. They used to take some long pillows and then kneel down, and through that small window they will look down. And the statistics was going wrong, because you are supposed to sit down there 1 meter imaginary transect, but you are looking obliquely somewhere. So it is, distance measure and all these things. So number and all these things were going down. That is what also Tony Print felt. During our survey, first time we did that, and we did not see many dugongs. So we decided to discuss with Abu Dhabi Aviation, Police, Army, and then they said, okay, it is possible. You'll have to go through a training program for safety. What you are saying, hanging, we actually don't hang outside the helicopter, but
Artistic
we,
license.
those footboard of trains, like that, you sit there, and your leg will be resting on that board. And yeah, everything all secured, actually, all you will be tied to the helicopter so well that nothing happens. So you can see through, and in few hours you will be comfortable. So doors are slided, not open, means like open door, and that gave us the best result for dugong, and we have been following that till this time. So we are not hanging out of helicopter, but literally, but yeah, we sit out, we can see outside and all this thing. And speed is less, height is also, altitude is less. So it's easy. So there is risk. If you are passionate and you are interested, you will enjoy it. If you have no passion, you will not like it. So it is better you like before and do this job. So that is why I said, if you are passionate, if you are interested, join this. Nothing means the best satisfaction, as is mentioned, it is in field and when you see your animal doing well.
Yeah, I like that. There's a sweet spot. It's probably some sort of Venn diagram between what you enjoy, what you're good at, and what you can get paid for, right? And you've got to find that beautiful sweet spot in the middle.
And another best thing that I can't forget, that I always look at in a group, when from top you see few hundreds of dugongs, not one, hundreds of dugongs. They come in from different angle and merge in one place. What they do, we don't know. They forage and they make water turbid, and they diverge and then go to different directions. In that case, what happens? Mother and calf pairs will be there. Mother will never leave the baby, and baby will never leave mom. So they will be together, and sometimes when we see a large herd in water, we communicate with pilot that please go up. So we fly usually in 500 feet height, and it goes to 600 feet. So noise level will be less, and we can see animals well, photograph them, count them, and then later we come down because of our selfish attitude of photography, and now social media is we are suffering through that. So come close and take a shot and go. That is the time you will see the baby comes close to mom, and one flipper, if you have seen dugong, that flipper will come over the baby and they will go down. And it's such a beautiful scene how mom takes care of this young one. That time I said, Captain, please go up. I don't want to see that. Because it is so, means those are some sights. I'll never get it anywhere. You will not see these things unless you are a researcher, dugong researcher. That just I'll tell the story and you will listen it. But to feel it, you'll have to be there.
Yeah, very few people have seen a dugong cuddle in live, right? Amazing. So it sounds like dugongs are fantastic mothers, unlike turtles who never even meet their children. Amazing. Thank you so much. And okay, so we've got, to summarize, really phenomenal wildlife and so much amazing stuff that we can experience. And being out in nature is is so vital for human well-being and for the amount of joy and sort of mental health. But it's not all roses, is it, guys? There's some issues at hand at the moment. Actually, the WWF just released a report last week. It's called the Living Planet Report. We release it sort of every few years. They look at thousands of data points of populations all over the world, wildlife populations, and they have a baseline of amount of wildlife that was around in 1950. 1970. So in the last 50 years, how much is left? So from 1970 to today, we've lost 73% of all wildlife on Earth. So population sizes we've lost almost 3/4 of wildlife. So there's a lot of danger for this wildlife that we enjoy interacting with so much. Nasreen, do you want to start with a few threats and challenges that are very urgent in your field?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main threats are, it's common around the world. Like we see increased urbanization, coastal development in many countries as well, overfishing, and sometimes aquaculture, where mangrove or coastal ecosystems are removed to make space for fish farms or shrimp farms. But mainly, I guess what we can see on a daily basis is really the impact of coastal development. But of course, we've all heard about the impact of climate change and potential or the risk of sea level rise, which will drastically change these habitats, but also the species that are depending on these habitats. So I think it's a long list of statistics and change, and it can be all doom and gloom. But we have to preach love, not loss. And so I think it's all about like this amazing program that EAD and Emirates Nature are collaborating on, which is Connect with Nature, which aims to take people out to these sites across the UAE to learn about nature, to be in nature, and really experience it and connect with it, or really understand how important it is for their personal lives. And it's really at that point, it's information is known not to really lead to behavioral change. What would change our behavior is these experiences that we have in nature, either as children or as adults, that impact us and influence us, and will impact the decisions we make as adults in our jobs, in our professional lives, but also in our daily lives, in terms of how much energy we're using, how much water, also the type of waste that we produce, what we eat even. And I think this is what will lead to this societal change, is to really allow our communities at different ages and different sectors to access natural areas, to experience nature, to learn about these habitats by being in them. And I think that's really the positive message here, where I see hope for the future.
Thank you for the plug, for Connect with Nature. You're making my job tough because I was trying to go on the threats, and you just always bring it back to a beautiful, positive message. But no, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. Hind, if we think about the interdependence of all living things, the theme of the Al Sidr Film Festival, what are the threats in that kind of theme in your area of work? The sort of codependence and how that's causing problems when one thing maybe gets lost, that then impacts lots of other things. For example, if we were to lose turtles, how would that impact other things? Or is there a particular species or habitat that once that's gone, then that can have a knock-on effect?
I can't choose one or the other. I mean, they're all equally important. So as we mentioned early on, everything is connected, or there's like a whole ecosystem and a life cycle where one species would depend on the other and vice versa. So losing one will cause us to lose the other, or cause that number to decline. If we go back to, as you mentioned, sea turtles, we have seagrass habitats that, although it's their foraging spot, but because they forage on seagrass habitat, it also causes nutrient cycling and all of these things that help benefit that ecosystem as well. If we lose sea turtles, we might, for example, in the case of hawksbills, we might have an increased number of jellyfish, which can then affect our fish stock in the sea. So there's this whole thing where even the invertebrates, if we lose some, or some are being in decline, it will impact the whole system. So protecting one will protect everything else, and losing one will cause to lose everything else.
Thank you. And Dr. Das, I'd like to talk to you a bit about this concept of shifting baselines. So if we think about the early days and those dugong surveys that you were doing from the helicopters, now I presume you're using drones and things, but this sort of attitude around shifting baselines, what's that? What kind of unique challenges is that causing?
See, for most of these species, in fact, bycatch is one, and sea traffic and all these. We have got lots of domestic shipping routes and international shipping routes. If you see, they do not come to deeper water, shallow water that much, but then their impact is always felt. Surveys like seismic survey, then even speedboat and along the shoreline, shallow waters for like propeller heat and all these things. So there are several issues in our water. These are risks for marine species, and we have been working on this for quite some time, but there are several limitations to overcome that completely, eradicate those issues completely. So that's the biggest challenge that we have. And for protection of these species and habitat, as my co-panelists are telling, multi-species and multi-habitat, conservation formats are much better. That is how in our NBS study, WWF and this, you can put it together and say 83 million, this 1,000 million, we have the ecosystem value for this small patch. But issue is that it takes into consideration of mangrove, seagrasses, salt marshes, tidal flats, ecotourism, all kinds of things. So there lies so conservation in a holistic manner is much better that way.
Yeah, please.
Can I add something about shifting baselines? So if some of you might not have heard of this term, shifting baselines, in kind of the ecological context, it was first coined by Professor Daniel Pauly from the University of British Columbia. And it basically means that as generations come in, as new generations grow up, they don't realize the loss, the environmental loss, because they've never seen a dugong, they've never seen a healthy seagrass bed. So they think that this is the normal thing. This is what we have here in Abu Dhabi. We've never had healthy seagrass beds, or we've never had healthy coral reefs, because it's always been like this. So this is where your baseline as a society is shifting. You think that this is the normal, it's the new normal. This is what basically these habitats are becoming if we don't educate about what they used to be, what they are meant to be, and what they could be, if we minimize the pressures, the threats, and if we put in that effort to restore these areas. And then by restoring habitats and ecosystems, there's a potential for species to come back and recover from these declines. So this is the kind of what we're hoping to achieve here with all of these awareness, but also research and education. It's ultimately to lead to this change where we understand what belongs here, what used to be here. It's what we call natural heritage. And there's an excellent book recently published called Emmert's A Natural History, which really gives an amazing description of all of the natural habitats, terrestrial and marine, that are found here in the UAE, and a lot of information about their history, their coverage, and why are they important for the UAE's wildlife. So I would encourage you to go through that, because we need to understand that what we're seeing now is not necessarily what could be here. And this is where I think there's a chance in the future to focus our efforts on restoration, but also from the government side as well as from the community side, to really implement policies and regulations that go towards supporting the conservation of these ecosystems.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's like the typical example of a shifting baseline is some sort of fishing company, and they have pictures on the wall of the fishermen from like the 1920s holding these fish that are like enormous. And then if you find a fish that's sort of this big, you're still winning the prizes. So fishing competitions over the, over generations, the size of a really prized fish goes down, and people think they've, caught something amazing, and actually it's nothing compared to what it used to be like.
And I think about one point about awareness that I just like to add as well is that it's not enough to really put a habitat or a charismatic species on the screen, or to just talk about it or show a picture of it. I mean, children nowadays, if you think about it, they're spending so much time on screens and malls, and they're really living in this kind of artificial environment where they don't get a chance to go out to a beach and see, let's say, a seagrass bed. They can see mangrove habitats, luckily, here in Saadiyat and in areas across Abu Dhabi. But it's not enough. I'm saying the quality of the awareness, or the type of awareness that we're doing, is very important. And it's really being in natural areas that sparks curiosity and inspires people to really make a change. So instead of just seeing wildlife on screens, it's more about experiencing it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that's a challenge for everyone here today to proactively put in your diary an appointment with yourself to go and spend time outside in nature and go and explore. Try and find some seagrass. That's a challenge. And go and enjoy nature and spend time in it. Thank you so much. So that brings us on to, beautifully, excellent segue, thank you so much, into our next kind of theme, which is really around what can we do? What can the people in this room do? What can be done on a systematic level, maybe? But also, what do we wish people knew? So Dr. Hind, what do you wish people knew?
I mean, just knowing what species and habitats we have, I mean, that's a big win for us, for people to know what kind of species and habitats we have, and also being knowledgeable about how they can help, as you just mentioned. So by equipping yourself with the right knowledge and knowing what the species that we have, the habitats that we have, what actually is threatening them, especially in terms of human activities or what we do on a daily basis. So if you're not aware, we do have a wildlife rescue and rehabilitation program in Abu Dhabi, which rescues marine wildlife. And unfortunately, a lot of not a lot, but a big number of them, of the turtles that we got, we've actually found pieces of plastic inside of them. And these pieces are very easily recognizable. So we found balloon pieces, we found plastic bags, pieces of paper cups, and this was not there in the environment. It was us as humans that put it there, that led to turtles eating them. So just knowing what kind of threats these animals and habitats are facing will encourage people to change their daily practices. And it's all baby steps. You don't have to drastically change everything you have in your house, or completely eliminate everything all at once. It's just these small steps that can get you on that path.
Yeah, thank you so much. You just reminded me of a memory where I found a little Haribo gummy bear packet inside a dead turtle's digestive tract, like still with a few like kind of gooey gummy bear remnants in there. So it's quite sad. And I was telling the panel before the session, I was doing a cleanup on Saadiyat Beach last year, and we found a plastic bottle, and I thought, let me see if I can see a use by date on this bottle, 1992. A plastic bottle. Someone lit it in 1992, and I picked it up in 2023. So, yeah, it's really an issue, and that's definitely something that's very easy for individuals to act on. Dr. Das, can you inspire us with some success stories? What are some you work a lot in protected areas. I know that is it 16% of the marine environment in Abu Dhabi is under protection? Can you give us some hope? What can we do? There's still hope if we do the right thing. So what is the right thing?
There is hope. There is hope, and in the beginning of this panel discussion, you mentioned that you thanked us for doing so good work, so populations are stable, and we are doing great job. But I think you should thank yourself. I'll tell you why. Coming back to the first discussion when you mentioned that WWF report is one, and in, I think, last San Francisco, I think, that Marine Mammal Conference, the president inaugurated the session and mentioned that in last 1970, first Marine Mammal Conference started, Society for Marine Mammals. Dr. Hind is going next week to present a paper in Australia, next one. In that, in 50 years, they found the number of researchers, because first 1970 registration in Florida were 300 delegates. So around 300 research papers were submitted for that conference. In 2015, San Francisco, 2015, we had 5,000 papers, 5,000 delegates. In the first meeting, there were only 4 countries, mostly 90% of the research papers from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and US. Southeast Asia, 0. Africa, Middle East, no representation at all. Now in this San Francisco, it was evenly distributed, 5,000 papers. Tell me a single marine mammal species that improved its status in those 50 years. Researchers, scientists increased 10, 15 folds. Research papers gone off 10, 15 folds. What has happened? Has science helped conservation? Yes, science is the basis, foundation for conservation. But did it help? Nothing happened, except right swell, which was Atlantic right swell, I think, that moves from US towards Alaska and during winter migration. That was done by US Coast Guard and Army. If that is the situation where you need to use force to protect species, by same way in terrestrial, in India, single horn rhino, it is protected by Army. Sutat site is there, order there, you cannot go close. So in those cases, science is not doing a great job. Or research is, we are providing information. Now it is the role of management, policymakers, decision makers, leadership to implement that. But it is not working. And with all these dredging, landfilling, construction, development, and all these things are getting worse. So there is a big challenge for us to continue doing science. At the same time, we'll have to see that status of species like goes off, like from critical and critically endangered to endangered status or endangered to least concern. That will be the happiest day for us. Then who is helping all these things? It is people, those who are talking, people, those who are communicating, people, those who are doing outreach program, like her and you people. You are doing better job than scientists, because the word of mouth and then awareness, outreach programs will make you aware and passionate about wildlife and ecosystem, and that will help. That will help. But there is a problem in that. It has to be long term, and it is never like 2-3 years school program you will do and all students will be educated. No, fresh batch coming, you'll have to do it. It is long term, it's sometimes expensive also, but it's worth doing those things, because that will help species protection. You need not do any, you name your species XYZ, don't call it dugong turtle, just protect them, like mangroves and salt marshes. Why to do all those restoration? Just protect whatever you have. Natural regeneration will take care of it. So we create problem. Now to understand that will be the best thing. So the success story that we have here is, okay, population is stable, statistically it is okay, fine, but we still see there is a way where stakeholder engagement, outreach programs, communication, that will help in a bigger way actually.
Wow, yeah. I mean, it's not a competition. The science is also very necessary
Yeah.
to support the outreach. We need to know what to tell people and tell them what to do. But I think it's a very good point around actually human behavior. You know, one of my favorite courses or one of my favorite modules at university was animal behavior, because then I could apply it to my fellow students and kind of apply these animal behaviors to humans. And one of the things about human behavior is we think we're very logical. We think we're making decisions based on facts, but actually, generally, we don't make decisions based on facts. Generally, we make decisions based on emotions. And that's when initiatives like this film festival are so important, because it really is bringing that emotional connection. It's that storytelling. So congratulations to the film festival for being such an important part of the puzzle. And yeah, thank you so much. So I'm conscious that we've been talking for about an hour, and I'm wondering if there's any questions from you guys.
Thank you so much for the panel, extremely interesting. I was wondering if you see any way that, for instance, robotics or AI or marine technologies, they can support conservation. Usually I think to monitoring, but maybe you see more applications that can be useful really from your perspective.
Can I take this one first? Yeah, certainly in outreach. So a lot of the work that we do is encouraging people who are out in nature to report what they're seeing. And I know Dr. Ada, who runs the UA Dolphin Project, was here at the beginning. I think she probably had to leave. But she'll tell you the power of reporting sightings from the community. So if you see a dolphin or a dugong, and you have a channel to report it, that's really, really valuable data. And one of the tools that we use a lot in our outreach programs is called iNaturalist. It's an app where any wildlife sighting, even if you see a track or you hear a sound, the community is out in nature, experiencing nature, and really amateur enthusiasts have as much, if not more, knowledge of an area of where they live than a visiting scientist that just comes for a day. And of course, we're also constrained by funds and the size of the team and the manpower. So this app, iNaturalist, allows people to report any sightings that they have. Then other members of the community can help to identify it. And what that means is you end up with a database of images tagged to species level. And that, of course, is a fantastic data set that can be reversed, and it can produce, with machine learning and AI, you can then have image recognition for species, which is then, of course, a fantastic educational tool. And it's basically Shazam for nature. And we use it a lot. I use it every day, and if I go on holiday and I'm like, oh, I wonder what this cool beetle is, that's the sort of person that I am. I take a picture, upload it to iNaturalist, and it will identify it for me, or at least get close, or get to roughly what it is. And it's so fun, and it's so cool, and it's a very engaging tool. But I can think of lots of other examples as well, so I don't know if you guys have any examples of how you use AI and technology in your work.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for AI, robotics, and technology to improve the efficiency of a lot of the data collection processes and studies that we do. But I would say the most important thing is that these tools are based on validated scientific data and a good understanding of the ecological processes that we are trying to interpret and understand. So you can't develop a technology and then try to apply it to a conservation study or an ecological study. It's not like a solution looking for a problem. No, you have to look at what we're currently doing and how can then technology enhance that in a way that is verified and useful and allows us to collect that data more efficiently, but collected in a consistent way and in a scientifically validated way. So this is what I would say about technology, because there's a huge push nowadays for AI, machine learning, and all that, and that's fantastic. But we just need to understand that it takes a big amount of time to really develop those processes and have the patience to ensure that these processes are useful and are based on a good understanding of the ecological processes that we're trying to analyze.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Do either of you have any comments on that question?
I think AI is coming up in a big way for marine mammal and reptile, marine megafauna monitoring. Google has got a project with now pilot study going on in Australia, and they are going to very soon, there's helicopter survey, aircraft survey, aerial surveys, which is most important for marine mammal study. Marine mammal population can only be determined or estimated using aerial vehicles like either helicopter or aircrafts, and also drone. People are using that. Those things are going to be obsolete very soon if this project is successful. They have a AI's logarithm attached to that. So with Google Map, they will find out the real-time data of dugong or turtle or whale population movement. So they can tell you every day where these animals are from the remote sensing data. They tried in 2-3 places in Australia, and UAE also they contacted, but because of our turbidity in water, they'll have to find some filter to see that, because while doing marine mammal survey, they are interested not only for the surface animals like dugong, but also bottom. And that is where our problem lies. Water column has got so much of sedimentation. Google said, no, it will be the second phase of our study. So there is already plan to use AI to monitor marine megafauna, and that will help us immensely. We will find real-time data of population movement, and any problem, there will be an early warning system which we can that can be used for conservation.
Nice. Yeah, I think another example in my mind is with whale sharks. So every whale shark spots are unique to the individual, so they can put it through the system, the computer, and they can recognize each individual whale shark. So if you are snorkeling with whale sharks in Australia, and then you see a whale shark then in the Philippines, and you upload those photos, then the project can tell if that's the same whale shark, and therefore help with migration, kind of distances and understanding of patterns as well. So pattern recognition. Good question. Anyone else? Ah, fantastic.
There we go. Got it.
Okay, it's lovely to have this symposium, this forum to speak out. I've been living here for almost 22 years, and we take advantage of all the nice islands around, right? And it's nice to know that that goes so much effort into protecting this. There is any particular forum for a person like me that just loves nature to just help? There is any a voluntarial forum where you can actually go for a cleanup, by the seashores, or you can help planting things, or any particular link that is maybe government fed, so we don't go to whatever. I have seen a lot of organizations that are trying to do, but they do it on a very small scale. I think if there is any forum that we can take advantage of and check from time to time. I have 2 kids that born here, they love the sea, so obviously no plastic, they already know, and all of those things, but
Do you want me to take that one? Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm not sure where you're based in Abu Dhabi, but we do have a community program that's based here on Saadiyat Island. It's mostly active during the turtle nesting season. And again, this program was launched a few years ago, and there were maybe 3 or 4 people that were just monitoring the beaches. Now it has more than 100 people on that. So what they basically do is monitor the beaches on Saadiyat Island during the nesting season to spot any turtles that come on Saadiyat, and then report it back to EAD. And then again during the hatching season to see the little hatchlings. So that's a program you can definitely get involved in. If you want more formally or to be alerted about any cleanups or any programs for volunteers, you can register as a volunteer with the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi, where they'll have your details and reach out to you whenever there's an opportunity to volunteer.
There's also an app called Naha, which is basically EAD's platform for if you want to sign up for these alerts and contribute your time as a volunteer. So there's a lot of options and information on that app, NAHA, Naha.
Natural Habitat is the abbreviation for NAHA. On that note, Connect with Nature is a program that we've developed, co-founded by the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi and Emirates Nature WWF. It's exactly that. It's an initiative where we have a lot of events every year. In fact, we've got a cleanup on Sunday. You can join. You can check out the websites connectwithnature.ae. That's also the handle for our Instagram, where we put all of our events. We channel people to the Turtle Patrol. We have tons of things going on, and I don't know if you heard in my bio at the beginning, one of my specialities is something called citizen science. So it's where we really bring, I help design ways to involve the community in the research and conservation. And we have a lot of different projects going on. You know, this project, iNaturalist, is something that you can do independently, but we organize events pretty much every week we have something happening. One of the things that we're doing with Nasreen is having volunteers help us with monitoring any restoration sites. So there's a big push to plant new trees, but it's not just about planting. You know, the scientific process is actually quite expansive, from site selection and baseline surveys. Then you have the one day where you plant the tree, and then you've got another sort of 5 years of monitoring. Is that tree growing? Is it healthy? Is the wildlife returning? And the work involved in restoring a habitat is a lot more than just planting a tree. And it's time consuming and it's heavy duty, but it's not necessarily that difficult if you have a small amount of training. So you can come along and become a mangrove guardian and learn how to monitor the health of the restored sites. And we have online trainings that you can take, and you can either do it independently or you can do it with the community. So yeah, check out connectwithnature.ae. That's a really great community of change makers and passionate people.
So my question is how the film industry can contribute to environmental and biodiversity conservation?
I'm going to ask our resident movie star, Dr. Hind, who over the last 2 weeks has been shooting her own documentary. So please take it away.
I think us as conservationists and scientists, we are very much sciencey. So the film industry can help showcase what we do and what actually goes into conservation and restoration and research to the wider community through simple messaging. And I think that's how we can get our message through to the people. Plus, like Nasreen mentioned, such as the video we showed earlier, is just having people witness sites that may be too offshore for them to actually visit or within protected areas. So having the people experience that through film would definitely get our messages through.
And Nasreen as well has been involved producing documentaries left, right, and center.
Yeah, just these ones. But I think film offers a new perspective, and a perspective that you wouldn't be able to get, otherwise. And it's these amazing drone shots. It's like Arabella said, we behave based on emotion. You know, this is really what's guiding our behavior and our decisions. And this is where film comes in. It's to inspire. It's to make us feel the passion and be inspired by the beauty of these areas, but also by their values. So really, nature is a source of inspiration. It's art, and this is where film can really bring in not just the beauty of nature, but also the challenges being faced by nature in a completely different perspective, and in a perspective that brings all that emotional aspect to the forefront. And there's a new field of science now called conservation psychology, which is amazing if you want to read up on it. And it's about how you can influence people in how they feel and how they think to really contribute to the conservation of these wildlife and habitats. Traditionally, it's always been numbers and statistics and figures, but now really it's about how do you build up that emotion? How do you make people feel the loss that is happening?
If I can just add, if anyone is thinking of getting into environmental films, you have to be very patient, because not every time you go out to the field, you will definitely see a species or the specific habitat. I mean, us just trying to capture a turtle nesting will require a film or a maker or director or a cinematographer to be with us in every trip for those 4 to 6 months, just to be able to capture the right moment. So it does require a lot of patience.
I have a small anecdote or story on that.
Please, we love stories.
During the filming of this series, so as we were going offshore to try and film seagrass and coral reefs habitats and get these amazing drone shots of dugongs or dolphins. So dugongs are incredibly hard to spot. Even if you spend, like Dr. Hind says, it requires a lot of patience. Sometimes you spend days or hours and you don't see anything because they're very shy and they will move away as soon as they hear a boat. And we were there, you know, with filming and budgeting, you have very limited days where you could actually be on the water with the whole crew and of course the permits that are required for the drone. So as we went out, I sent a message to Dr. Das, who's I consider our dugong whisperer. And I said, Dr. Das, please give a call out to all your dugongs and tell them to appear right in front of the boat as soon as the drone is in the air. And to my surprise, this actually happened. As soon as we were offshore in the Marawah Marine Biosphere Reserve in the Al Dhafra or western region of Abu Dhabi, and the minute that the drone was in the air, we were filming a pod of Indo-Pacific humpback dolphins, and as the drone was in the air, this big dugong came right next to the boat. And I had never, even though I've been working with EAD for 10 years, I had never seen a dugong this close before. And so really my wish came true. So thank you to our dugong whisperer. But again, to what Dr. Hind says, this is incredibly rare. And usually you have to spend hours and days out in the water before you have this close encounter. It's a rare privilege.
And yeah, and if I can add to that as well, you know, you mentioned psychology there. I think another very instinctive thing for us humans is that we want to belong and we want to fit in, right? And I think even everyone here, you don't have to be have a huge production to make video content that can be you know, motivating and make an impact. So even short form content that you're taking of when you're spending time out in nature and doing things at nature, it creates that FOMO. I think it creates that culture of you know, the wonder of small things. You know, there's so much beauty in you know, even a plant growing through a crack in the pavement. That's still nature. That's still you know, absorbing carbon and giving us oxygen and providing a home for pollinators or whatever it is. It's still when you start to notice nature and you start to spread that message about how much nature there is, I think that's also helping to shift those attitudes and make people value the nature around them. Dr. Das, do you have anything to add?
I have many stories, but filmmaking is an interesting thing. In the beginning, I was not in favor of that. I thought, oh, our research reports are much better than filming and these documentaries. But now I realize the power of audiovisual programs and how crucial they are for conservation. And they're doing a great job. And I feel that maybe 20 years back, if this was like this, we could have seen so many. Means, you know, just a fun fact up before that. We had a team member, Suad Al-Harthi, Environment Society of Oman. She's there now, and she's a good field worker. And then 2004 she joined. That is the time we started a real aerial survey, like whole Abu Dhabi coastline, and in one go 10,000 square kilometer we are doing. And Suad used to go to field every week, and most of the time I join her. Never ever we could see a dugong. She said, "Are you sure dugongs are there?" I said, "No, I'm cheating government of Abu Dhabi and taking salary." So how is this going? I don't see. And frankly, she was the only staff in our team who was going to field almost every week, maybe 2-3 days in a week. She never saw that. So I said, next aerial survey, you are going to sit besides the pilot, because there are engineer seat, that is second pilot seat. So Suad sat there, and inside the helicopter, you cannot communicate, because whatever you communicate, it is only to pilot. If you speak something useless, it will be heard by pilot will be disturbed, as well as radar also, they will also, you know, listen. So we had some paper sleep and all this, we pass each other if something funny we want to share. So we saw those 2-3 herds of dugong, hundreds of dugongs all around. So I sent one message to Suad, how is that? And behind she wrote, how soon we came to Great Barrier Reef, Australia? I said, no, this is Abu Dhabi waters, is it? She says, so those type of mischievous quotes and all these things, you know, some people are there, they don't see these things. And even if you go to see or go to those habitats we know, we may not Pine Dugong Atoll. It has happened several times, but with this film, their patience and all these things. I appreciate the film team's patience and all this. I get, means like it is so tiring and all these things, but still they'll work for it, and that is what we see nowadays, and it is very, very important. You play a major role in conservation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I just want to add something before we get to the next question. I mean, the filmmaking industry historically is one of the most wasteful industries. Um, from destroying rivers in Mexico early on in the 1920s to when you look at Jaws and any of the favorite films that you might even like, if you actually do the research on them, it's been a very, very problematic industry for the environment and one of the highest carbon footprints. But recently, in the last 5, 10 years, there are many organizations and governments that are enforcing on every film set there has to be a environmental consultant. There are companies that we presented in the film festival, Greener Screen, that are working in the Middle East, that every film crew is working in better ways to save energy, water, and so many things. And so I think that's another important thing that's been changing in the last 5 years. And also, you know, the EAD has helped many filmmakers consult. Like I recently shot film footage on the Socotra Cormorant, and I was really helped out by the EAD Suleiman Javid, yeah, who really gave me great advice about how to walk on their nesting areas, what to watch out for. And I think that's for filmmakers, it's really important to really study with the scientists in the field before actually filming too. There's just too much to learn. Okay.
Hello. So my question is, you said it's very, very rare to see those wildlife if we go to the nature. Me as an artist, I like to photograph to take references of the wildlife to paint or draw it. So how can we find these photos that you guys take? Is there like a place where we can access them, or like how can we see all of these, you know, films or photos that are taken of these wildlife that exist in Abu Dhabi?
You can always put in a request with our corporate communications office, which I would be happy to give you their details. And depending on your project, they would provide whatever footage or photos that we have captured of the animals and habitats. And they would be more than happy to help you in whatever project you have. So there's that, basically.
Can I give you a suggestion as well? Look for the extraordinary in the ordinary, because I recently just bought a new macro lens and I've become obsessed with wasps. And I found the most beautiful cuckoo wasp. It's this like iridescent blue and green, and I just got really interested in the small things. You know, even if you're walking along the beach on Saadiyat, you'll find, you know, a pearl oyster washed ashore, and you can see those beautiful colors in the pearl oyster. Or if you look at the patterns of the seashell, or, you know, there's lots of beautiful artwork I've seen of seagrasses, all the different types and beautiful illustrations of seagrass. So it doesn't have to be the big charismatic species to still be incredibly beautiful and worthy of our attention. The Ugly Animal Appreciation Society needs to get a bit more bit more backing.
Yes?
More questions? There we go.
Any other questions on that?
Thank you guys for the great discussion. And I wanted to follow up on the question on filmmaking. So I'm also working on a documentary, environmental documentary, and I think one of the biggest challenges that we faced is getting other stakeholders that maybe aren't directly working on conservation or carbon emission or any of these kind of issues directly, and getting their buy-in, because at the end of the day, it takes a village, and the more buy-in you get from different stakeholders, the bigger impact you can get. So I wanted to kind of also learn from your experiences. How do you position the story, and how do you position the impact to get that buy-in from the right stakeholders when you're doing something like an environmental documentary?
Want to go? Anyone?
Please.
And that's a tough question for a marine ecologist. For maybe our communications team could help with that. But really, I think it's about knowing your audience and really being clear on what messages are you trying to convey and how to influence. And it's, whether you're making a film for the general public or for like leadership or for kids, for example, then I guess you would adjust the scope and the way that you film accordingly. But really, I think a film about a nature documentary or a film about wildlife speaks to a very large audience, because I think as humans we are innately attracted and naturally in love with nature. As children, we're naturally curious about nature and about wildlife, and as adults, we have this thirst for it. And so it's relatively, I would say, not easy, but it's relatively straightforward to capture the beauty of these areas, but it's not as straightforward then to really how would you influence a particular stakeholder, a particular group to change, to make a change. And I don't really have an answer for that, but I think this is something that filmmakers, but also policymakers need to continue exploring together. But from my experience in policy making and working at this interface between science and policy and community engagement, I know that the power of a video, the power of an image can really sometimes be worth 1,000 published reports or scientific papers. It's really at finding the right time and the right message and having a visually stunning and inspiring image or video to support your cause.
And I think as well, if I can add, I think adding in that human story into the environmental message is also very important, because like with Dr. Hind's documentary that'll be coming out, she's profiled and through her story, you then hear about the environmental message. And then it feels a little subtler because no one likes to be preached to. Everyone knows we're going to take care of the environment, like boring. We want to hear like an interesting story, we want to be entertained as well as being educated. So bringing in that personal message and, with all of the conservation that we're trying to do, at the end of the day, we're trying to prevent human suffering and we're trying to enable life as we know it to continue. Nature's been around for millennia. It will continue to be around for millennia to come. It's really it's whether we can thrive side by side with it and what condition it needs to be in for us to thrive. Nasreen was talking earlier about the heritage side of things. Well, in order to support heritage, you have to have the ecosystems that support, as strong as they were to support the heritage as well. So having that human story woven within the environmental story, I think is helpful.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think maybe one example of that, how many of you have watched My Octopus Teacher, the documentary that won the Oscar recently? So why did that particular nature documentary win the Oscar? It's because it's not just focused on the life of the octopus, although like a traditional nature documentary would just focus on the animal itself and its lifestyle, but it focused a lot on the human story behind it, on how this person is, in terms of his need to go out to the water and how it helped heal him to an extent, and his connection to that particular animal. And I think that's what was so captivating and interesting to audiences, in addition to the amazing filming and cinematography, obviously. But that's what I think people are craving. It's like human dimensions of, and these human stories of interaction and valuing and appreciation of nature.
Yeah, to add, there's over 100 environmental film festivals, and all of them are having different ways of funding and different ways of reaching out to the public. Some that inspired this festival was from a library in New Jersey to Kuala Lumpur. There's 6 in India, that to my count right now. And all of them are trying to come up with ways to support different types of environmental filmmaking. We hope this year there'll be a surprise. We'll be giving an award to a film in progress, and that'll become a ritual for El Sidr. Every year, any film, like fiction, hybrid, documentary, that's already has production will be awarded, and we'll start that tradition this year. But it takes many people. And also it's great, My Octopus Story, to see now, before there were just one type of ecological documentary, everyone just thought it was National Geographic. and that's it. But now there's debates. There's people that say, no, My Octopus Teacher wasn't a great film because it was too much of this or too much of that. And there's debates about it. And I think there's just so much, I mean, there is growth with how do you show and represent nature? And that's just an amazing, there's just so many new ways to do it now also. So yeah. Sorry. Any other questions from the audience we've been on this side too much. Ah, good. Someone on the left wing or the right wing, depending on your angle. Sorry.
Thank you. Dr. Das, you mentioned that you discourage anybody from entering this field unless you're really passionate about it. And as I have seen in my life, a lot of people end up being where they did not start. Life just takes you in a journey you had never anticipated you would be on. So how does one find that passion to get into the field that you are in? Did you all know this is exactly what you wanted to do and this is what you started doing and this is where you ended up and continue? Or did that happen by accident? And if it happens by accidents, how do we make those accidents happen?
I think you were right. It happened by accident. My master's specialization was biochemistry and enzymology. And I got National Fellowship for Research, but I wanted to go to a good university in my home country, Jawaharlal Nehru University. There I failed in research exam. So I came back for this, and accidentally I got a project called Wetland Ecology Project or something, coastal, this one. And I had an option to go for fisheries biology, wildlife biology. And I found fisheries, all fish look same, and I enjoy eating fish, but nothing to do with fisheries. So I went for turtle nesting, voluntary program and all this, because close to my village, there are, arabadas, those mass nesting of olive ridley turtles. So that I enjoyed. Then I slowly got into this, and I got research fellowship. And this project was available to us. I joined that project, and I enjoyed that. And that is how my passion started. I didn't see seagrass prior to that, and neither dugong or green sea turtles, olive ridley turtles only I had seen. So it slowly, with education, your scope and all these things, sometimes life take a turn and then you move. I have seen many people, they start for some other subject and suddenly change their field. So if you have that inside, that passion, interest, and you get the right thing and right time, then that is how it happened. Yes, it happened accidentally, but then I pursued my interest, and I am enjoying my work. I'm very happy with my work.
Go ahead.
Yeah, can I add? I think it's not just by accident, but also so many times it's the way that as children grow up and they experience things throughout their lives, not as children but also as adults, that influence them and impact them, and they help wake that passion within them. So something as simple as visiting a beach or visiting a forest can really influence what you decide to study later on, or what you decide to focus your career on. So for me, I guess in our society traditionally we're told, well, to succeed you have to go into medicine, engineering, business. And even my parents, when I told them I'm studying environmental science, they said, hey, ma بتطعمي خبز, like this is not a career that allows you to make a living. And even though it's out, you're being driven by interest, but also by this hope that no, I am choosing a career that will help make a contribution to society. And sometimes it takes something as simple as having a passionate professor at school or at university that really allows you to be exposed to a particular field and environment. And sometimes it's really that kind of consistency throughout your childhood or adulthood where you've been exposed to a natural area, it sparked that curiosity and you've made that decision to dedicate your life about it. So I think that's one way where we can hopefully invest in in the new generation to kind of spark that interest, spark that curiosity, because we need really, we really need those generations to go into the fields of science, research, sociology, and economy, but also taking into account the importance of nature conservation for society.
Dr. Hind, you said that it was an accident that you became a marine biologist. Do you want to share what happened?
It wasn't that it was an accident, it was I just changed majors a year into university. I started out as a marketing student, but I mean, I didn't see myself in that field when I started to get into like the major classes, and then it was just one morning at university when I went around all the colleges and just like got their study plans just to see what options I have. Environmental science was new. It was not really known at that time. I think I was part of the second batch at the university at the time, and I went in because it was something I haven't heard of before or really saw it as a major. And then with the courses that I took, we took everything from like general sciences to like genetics and like organic chemistry kind of stuff, plus the environmental laws. So it gave me like a whole basis of what this field can offer. And everything from that was just, I mean, I think I was lucky enough, it was just easy getting an internship at EAD, and then, alhamdulillah, getting employed, and then just being exposed. And because we were a few that graduated with this major, we got to pick which section we wanted to work at, and I chose the marine biodiversity because through my internship, I felt that's where I wanted to be. So maybe at the beginning it was sort of an accident or sort of not really planned, but everything else just became easier after it. And then I pursued my higher degrees after knowing that I wanted to focus on sea turtles.
Nice. And you mentioned what can we do to encourage this passion. I think you used a very important word there, exposure. Certainly for me, I had my own octopus teacher. Actually, I grew up in Cyprus for a few years and used to rush down after school to go snorkeling. My parents didn't care too much about health and safety for a 7-year-old to go independently snorkeling. But there was an octopus that I used to visit and go and look at every day. And then one day I saw a fisherman taking it out of the water one evening. So that was a moment. And also, I lived in Oman after that, and my family were friends with some marine biologists, and my brother had a friend who was studying marine biologist, and she was really cool, and I wanted to be like her. So just exposure to role models, exposure to environment was what did it for me. All right, I think maybe I'm going to leave it there, and I'm sure if anyone has any further questions, we can hang around for a little bit. But, oh, yeah, follow up quickly.
Apologies, I'm double dipping. If I may, if you would allow me, can I make a suggestion? It's just a thought that came up in my mind, and maybe it's a silly idea, or maybe it's not. The MENA fish market has a lot of species of marine life that is available for sale and consumption, and I've been there a few times. It's just fascinating to look at all these things. Is there anything available online that describes these species, about their habitat, about where they are in the ecosystem, something we can download and take with us and just say, hey, that, this, whatever, and educate ourselves? Or if something like that can be prepared and the public made aware of, that would very easily, without having to go to the beaches and the islands, enable people to go to the fish market and look at all these various species fish, maybe buy some, maybe consume some, just educate ourselves a little bit more. Sorry, an out-of-the-box idea just came up in my mind.
Platform. So we have a platform currently launched only in English, but we're working on the Arabic version at the moment, which is called the eGreen platform. So the eGreen platform basically offers online mini courses, I would say, on everything related to the environment. It has courses on biodiversity, fish, oceanography, geography, everything about the environment in the UAE as a whole. And you get a certificate at the end, and it's free for everyone to use. So that's one way I can think of that can give you an overview about the environment online.
there's heaps. So
Yeah, there's also a Abu Dhabi Nature app. I mean, it's still kind of in the process of development, and more species and photos are added. And a long time ago, there was a guide, a sustainable fisheries guide, developed by Emirates Nature and EAD, called the Choose Wisely Sustainable Fisheries Campaign. And in that booklet, there's different species of fish and their exploitation status. And the idea was to guide consumers on what to purchase, because through your purchasing decisions, have a big influence on the market and what gets caught, etc. And so there's that guide, I think, is still available to download on Emirates Nature or EAD's website. And it's not comprehensive. It's not all the species that you find at the fish market, but it's a start. And then, of course, there's the Abu Dhabi Nature app. And there's also fish identification guides and books for the Arabian Gulf and the Indian Ocean and the Gulf of Oman that are available that can help you identify those amazing fish species.
we also have a knowledge hub on connectwithnature.ae, so you can check it out. It doesn't have that many specific species, but it has general topics. And of course, you can take a picture and put it on iNaturalist, and the AI will tell you what it is. Awesome. Well, I would like to say thank you so much to the three of you for this wonderful conversation, and thank you guys as well so much for giving up your Thursday night to come and listen to us talk about our favorite things. I could keep going for another 2 weeks at least.
Yes. I'd like to also thank Arabella for doing an excellent job moderating. Thank you all. Thank you so much. And the last question, just to thank you, I didn't plant that person here. Our first opening film tomorrow is called Against the Tide. It's about fisheries in India. The waters are very close to here. Also, there's a presenter on Sunday at 3 p.m. who wrote her capstone paper at New York University, Abu Dhabi, on fisheries in UAE. So that sort of connects to your last question there also. And there'll be, if you notice the slideshows that were presented before the event began, tomorrow there'll be some information from the EAD about fisheries in the slideshow that show usually the first 5 minutes of the event, but we try to put some quotes and different types of music that connect to what we're doing. So thank you, everyone. Thank you guys for coming. Please see our exhibition. The artist is here of one of our exhibitions, Camilla Singh. Please experience it, really experience it. And also we have a Natural History Museum Abu Dhabi exhibition on the right. And really go through our film catalog. There's different types of films, again, connecting to storytelling, emotion, all different forms of filmmaking. Thank you all. Have a great night. Yeah. Thank you guys also. Yeah.